Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Now, what we need to do is have a way of providing the logger service to, let me just, yep. We need a way of providing the logger service here so that this variable logger would actually be initialized and so that the logging process would actually occur. There are three main ways of doing it. The third one, I guess that's the recommended one. The first way is basically to go into the main.ts, and import it here globally with Bootstrap method that basically starts the Angular application. This will mean that there shall be only one instance and one instance alone of the logger service across the entire application, and it will be the same. So this is not good for other services that are component specific, like account services. So it's not good there because account services is not used globally. It is only good for basically some of the services which are used globally, such as the logger service, because each one of our components will need the ability to actually generate logs. And this will work rather well with the add optional decorator, as we only need to basically write it here as I have. So either have it here or not have it here. Either way, the application will work. Not having it here means that there will be no logs, and having it here means that there will be logs, and you only need to change it here and here alone and nowhere else. Not a bad way, but not something that we want, because you would also need to list all the dependencies and all the other things. We don't really have any now, but not the best of ways. So yeah, the comma. Anyway, the second way is to include it in the component, basically app component.ts, that uses the account service. This means that this service will exist within this component, and all the children will basically be using it. So this will be the third method. I'll explain it in a moment. But you can include it like this. And if app component has it included in the list of providers, that means that all the children will actually be able to use it as well. You need to include it here. Now, this again is very similar to the first method, except it's not included globally, but you still would have to list dependencies here, which is rather bad for us. What are these dependencies? What on earth is it that I'm talking about? Well, just imagine that instead of just private logger here, we would have like 2, 3, 4 more. You would need to literally list them all out here one by one, and every time you would change something in here, you would need to go to the other file and change it here as well, which is you're bound to create faulty code if you go about doing it in such a way. That is why we're going to go ahead and use the Angular way. I'm just going to go ahead and comment this. Oops. I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out and utilize this. So I have included the account service providers here, and it's used from account.services. And if we go to the account services, and if we scroll down all the way to the bottom, there's a new export going on here. So it says export let and then account underline service providers, and this is an array that can be filled up with pretty much anything. Well, take that with a grain of salt. And then we have account service and logger service. So they are both included in this array, and we can then pass this array elsewhere. We can include it wherever we want. And when we make changes here, so when changes are made here, it doesn't matter, because all that we need to do is change the array, and the changes will reflect to everything that is using it. So we just need to change it, to conduct changes within this file, and changes will be reflected to everything that's tied to it. And if we can see here, it says providers, and then you just give account service providers you pass this array, and then, well, you of course need to include this here as well. But as soon as you pass this array, that means that all the dependencies, all the services and their dependencies are actually loaded from the array and passed as providers here, and therefore they can be used. Now they're used by this component, by app.component.ts, and they can be used by all of its children. So it's not the same as the global providing, which I'm actually going to remove. Just like this. Yeah, that was a bad idea. Oh no. God. It's already removed. Sorry, it's gone. I did remove it. I didn't realize that. Sorry. So I'm just gonna go ahead and leave this as app component. I didn't realize that I actually removed it already. Silly me. Anyway, so we're gonna use this way, and we'll be passing an array of services and their dependencies, and then that will be included in the providers, and that will become available to the app component.ts and to all of its children, so to parent and to all the children. And in such a way, we're creating a system which is easily changed from a single file. You don't need to jump between files to actually conduct changes. You might say, well, what's the difference? I needed to make a change here and here. That's still two changes, the same as changing the array and changing it here. Well, no, not really, because you are just conducting changes within one file. Yes, and two places in one file, but in one file nevertheless, and those changes are reflected anywhere where this is used. When you need to jump between, when you make a change in one file for a certain set of variables or something like that, when you need to jump to the next file, the next file, the next file, trust me, this leads to errors on end and to headaches, pretty bad headaches. So just include it like this as an array, and you will have all the things that are listed in the array made available. Okay, so that would be it. Here, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next chapter. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. We'll be more than happy to help you out in any way we can.